Yeah, Rosita, go ahead.
Yeah, so I will now share the screen and share the video. Yes, so for today's experiment, we are going to prepare the para-bromoacetanilide from acetanilide. So para-bromoacetanilide, this was very important before we develop para-acetaminophenol, that is the Calpol or paracetamol. So actually this compound was used so when we have some fever previously, when we do not have paracetamol. So and this compound is a precursor for other pharmaceutical products as well, that para-bromoacetanilide. And the reaction we are learning here is the halogenation reaction. This is one of the oldest reaction in organic chemistry, but very efficient to make meaningful and useful derivative of organic compounds, the halogenation reaction. Of course, the reaction is a very simple one, so it's not very complicated, but some caution has to be taken care of, because today we are handling bromine. So bromine is very, very corrosive and very bad for our skin. So even if you put a drop of bromine on top of your plum, so this will pass through your plum. So this is so much dangerous. But in laboratory, we will supply the bromine in acetic acid solution. So we have already made the bromine and we put it in acetic acid, and we have prepared the bromine in acetic acid solution. But we need to do that entire reaction inside the hood. Still, this bromine in acetic acid solution is a highly concentrated one, so there will be huge fumes of bromine inside the lab. So we'll do this reaction inside the hood. And Shuman will discuss the mechanism of the reaction. So I will just simply say what you have to do in the lab. So you need to take 2.33 gram acetanilide in 8 ml glacial acetic acid. So glacial acetic acid is the solvent for this reaction. And we will do this reaction in a conical flask. So we can cover with the wash glass on top of the conical flask to avoid huge amount of bromine fumes in lab. And so then we will dissolve the acetanilide in glacial acetic acid, and we will add 1 ml bromine in 5 ml glacial acetic acid. So we already prepared the solution slowly in that acetanilide solution with constant shaking. And so after addition of the bromine, we will place it in cold water, ice cold water for 30 minutes, but we'll stir it constantly. So once you place it in ice cold water, you will see that glacial acetic acid is actually solidified in ice cold water, and the thing it's got very messy to stir. But we have to stir it continuously. So after 30 minutes, we'll take out that and we'll keep it on table. And so again, the acetic acid comes back in its liquid form, and then we'll add 100 ml of ice cold water to that solution, and we'll get the para-bromoacetanilide, and then we'll filter that precipitate. The para-bromoacetanilide in water solution will precipitate out. We'll filter that precipitate and wash with cold water and recrystallize from alcohol. So that's it for this time being, what we have to do. And now Shumon will discuss the mechanism of this reaction.
Yeah, thank you, Rosita. Mm, Okay, so the mechanism part, uh, as Professor Haldar already mentioned, it's a halogenation reaction, and probably you are aware of few kind of halogenation reactions. Let's, because we are doing bromination, let's take, as you know, there are different halogens, but let's do discuss, start the discussion, continue the discussion with bromine only. And whenever you do halogenation, so you can see the bromine, any halogen, X2, chlorine, fluorine, bromine, iodine, whatever. These are homomeric compound, right? Homoatomic. So both the atoms of the molecule are the same, right? So that's why bromine, chlorine. So that's why the bond polarity is not there. But So think about anything like HBr or HCl, one side hydrogen, one side any other atom. So then because of electronegativity difference, those bonds are between HBr or HCl are polar, right? And that's why, so one side becomes positive, one side negative. So any kind of reaction when you try in those kind of polarized molecule is much easier. But this kind of molecule like bromine, chlorine, so normal halogens, these dihalogens, these are difficult because the polarity is not there. So you need something, you need to do something to activate these molecules. So there are different ways, different techniques to activate halogens and to perform the halogenation. One of the famous method probably that you have learned during your class 2 already, to cleave the halogen bond homolytically, just to cleave in between the two bonds and from there generate halogen radical. So if you just cleave homolytically, whatever bond pair is here, two electron will be shared equally, and then you will get the two halogen radicals. And once you have the halogen radical, it becomes a bit hazy, is it? Is it becoming hazy? Am I audible still?
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. I think the camera focus is.
Why suddenly gone bad? Or is it the... Should not be. Yeah.
The board is not almost visible.
Now it should be fine, right? Now
Yeah, it's
okay?
fine. Now it's fine. It's okay.
Okay, all right. Yeah. Now the thing is, whenever you do, as I said, so there is not much polarity in between BR bond. So you need to do something so that it becomes more reactive. And there are several different ways to do it. So one of the method is to cleave it homolytically and generate this radical. Now how to do this? Here also there are different methods. You can really heat it at very high temperature, like 200, 300 degree, then the bond, so you have to, the bond energy, get the enough activation to split it into two radicals. But the more famous or milder way, to put it in sunlight, or any kind of artificial lights, UV or even sunlight. If you just put it in sunlight, it activates the halogen molecules and split it into radicals. And as you know, radicals are pretty reactive. Once you form any reactive intermediate like halogen radical, then it reacts with whatever partner. So one of the famous thing is just to react with different alkenes, halogenation of alkenes, you know, and then what will happen? The bromine will get into, just add in radical fashion to halogen this alkene, and you will get the halogenation of alkene, okay, like this. But you know, sometimes the radical reaction, these radicals are pretty reactive, as I already mentioned, and sometimes it goes out of control. These radical reactions, of course, these are good, but sometimes it goes out of control. So that's why this method, radical method, sometimes it's get discouraged, especially in higher scales. And you can't really control. In organic chemistry, it's not only the reactivity, the controlling the selectivity is also very important. We'll see in a minute why I'm saying so. So that's why people look for alternate methods to activate halogens and get this halogenation done by other ways. Another method is to activate the halogen is by using different Lewis acids. Like again, let's take the bromine like this, and this combination of halogen with Lewis acids, like especially metal salts like aluminium or iron. Okay. Metal salts like aluminium, iron, and even magnesium, this kind of Lewis acids is quite famous. Okay. So what will happen if we mix any halogen with this kind of Lewis acids? What will happen? Lewis acids, as you know, it's because it's likes electron. Lewis acids takes electron from electron-rich thing, and bromine. Each of the bromine is having 3 lone pairs. So one of the lone pair will be coordinate with the Lewis acid here. You have to fix the stoichiometry so that you have to fix the stoichiometry in catalytic amount. The amount of bromine should be more and amount of this Lewis acid should be less, so that only one of these bromine get the chance to coordinate with the Lewis acid. Once this scenario happens, what will happen? Because this guy is giving electron and this guy is taking electron, so there will be a negative charge here. If once this bond is formed, once this bond forms, then this will become positive and this becomes negative. Now you see two bromines are not same. Because this becomes positive, this whatever bond pair will be pulled towards the other bromine and this bond becomes polarized. And ultimately the bromine molecule, Br2 molecule, will get activated. And this method is specifically famous in the halogenation of different aromatic compounds. I'm just taking any general aromatic compound. You see, aromatic compound can easily then just react like this, okay, in the activated bromine. So in our reaction here, actually we'll make use of this concept. Make use of this concept that will activate one of the bromine, so that this one of the bromine, so that it becomes polarized, and then it becomes one of the bromine. One terminal becomes reactive, and then this nucleophile can attack the bromine. But as I said, these Lewis acids, aluminum tribromide or this iron tribromide, these are good, but here there are some problem. One is the sensitivity. These metal salts are pretty hygroscopic. Okay, so that because these are Lewis acid, right? These are strong Lewis acids, and it really wants something with having some lone pair of electrons. And water, the oxygen having the lone pair of electron, so that's why it really likes water. If you just put FeCl3 outside or FeBr3 outside in an open bench, after sometimes you will see it catch a lot of water from the moisture from the air, and then it becomes very sticky liquid or whatever. That's why the storing and handling is a little bit tricky here. So can we take something which is even easier to handle but will serve the same purpose? Yeah. The answer is yes. How? The Lewis acid that we are using, we can replace that with a proton. Why don't you replace with a proton? Proton is also, you can consider the proton as a tiny Lewis acid, which is also likes to have some electron, or likes to have someone having a lone pair of electron. Okay, like this, it can also attach or coordinate. So if it's do like this, so what will happen? This guy, there will be some polarity difference here, because this guy will become delta positive here, or you can better to say what will happen. Basically, this guy is donating electron. That's why ultimately there is a pull. No? So you know when they're pulling the rope. So this guy donating electron. Okay, so that's why then what will happen? This guy becomes electron deficient, and so that's the bond pair of electron. Then this will pull the bond pair of electron towards this, and ultimate the terminal, this bromine basically this will lose the bond pair of electron, the share. That's why ultimately the delta positive will come here, the terminal bromine. Okay, so just using this concept, you can see that if you mix bromine with an appropriate acid, then what will happen basically, the homogeneity or the non-polarity of the bromine will break. Okay, and one of the terminal of the bromine may become positively charged. In our practical today, we exactly use this concept, and as you can see, Professor Halder already mentioned, we mixed bromine in acetic acid. Okay, so this kind of, and in acetic acid is not a very strong acid. The pK is around 5. So you can show a proton like this, a free proton, or even you can show like this. Sometimes people show like this. It's not necessarily that you show a free proton you can show that a delta positive here, so that delta negative here, because this bond, OH bond, is already polarized. That's why this guy is donating something, and because of this donation, this again the bond pair will be pulled by this guy, and the positive delta positive charge on the terminal bromine. That is our goal. Okay. So just by mixing bromine and acetic acid, we can activate bromine and we can generate this kind of activated complex. Now, this activated complex will serve as an electrophile. You can see, because we are generating a positive charge in a terminal bromine, so this will serve as an electrophile. What about the nucleophilic part here? The nucleophilic part, as Mr. Haldar mentioned, is this guy here. NHAC. AC, I hope you know, AC is this group, acetate. Acetyl group here, acetyl COCH3. This is AC, COCH3. Okay, now someone may ask, why, sir, we took AC here? Why took AC? Of course, one of the reason is, as Professor Haldar mentioned, this is the previous version of our famous paracetamol. That is para-acetyl amino phenol, OH here, and we are trying to get the bromine here. So that's why this acetyl group on this amine nitrogen is important. So this is one reason, but there is another reason. The another reason is, let me draw the unprotected version of this. This is basically this guy, which is the aniline. Okay, so aniline, you can see, this is the benzene ring and one amine here with a lone pair of electron. Okay? And lone pair of electron, it can be really strong plus M effect of nitrogen. That's why this ring is really electron rich. Okay? Really electron rich, and this aniline is a very good nucleophile. Okay, so once you have a very good nucleophile and you have this activated complex, which is also reasonably good electrophile, if you mix these two, what will happen? It will immediately react, but the problem will be the reaction will be uncontrolled. What will happen? Because this is really activated, the bromine will enter this position, and this position. Okay, so there is a possibility that uncontrolled bromination will happen, and both the ortho and para tribromination will happen. But in this reaction, the mandate is not to do that. You also should control the selectivity. The product structure you have already seen, that we want to have the bromine only at the para position. Okay, so you don't want it in the ortho positions. That's why. So we need to control the reactivity of the aniline also. So how to control the reactivity? There are two ways. We can minimize this electron donation. How can we do that? Just put simple thing. You put an electron withdrawing group on nitrogen. That is what we have done. We just put this group here so that this keto part will pull electron from this nitrogen lone pair, so that the donation in the aromatic ring will be less. Okay? So just that's why, compared to this guy, the electron density here in the aromatic ring is much lesser. Okay, so this is the more electron rich, this is less electron rich. You can really control the selectivity. And moreover, once we have this group here, you can see already, if I expand this one, NH is there, and like this, no? COCH3, I don't have much space to expand really. Now you can see this group, and this is a single bond. This is rotating like umbrella, right? So that's why the steric bulk also here. The steric bulk of this group will also, there will be this ortho position will be more sterically crowded because the presence of this group. And because of these two reasons, the steric factor and electronic factor, the bromine will really preferably react with at the para position. So this guy will just go all the way and react with this, the bromine, and then the bond will clip because it's already polarized. It will clip like that, and it will enter here. I hope you know all this is standard electrophilic substitution reaction. You can show that nitrogen is donating electron, that's not an issue. So bromine comes here and hydrogen here, and we can show there's a positive charge on nitrogen here, COCH3, then it's pretty easy. Rearomatization. Like this, NHSC, like this. Yeah, that's the product. Pretty simple. Once you have activated complex, active electrophile is ready to react. We have a controlled reactivity of the nucleophile, and as I said, Y is not going to ortho, preferably at para, forming this complex, and then just rearomatization minus proton here, and giving you the product. Okay. Latter part is simple. Reaction, overall reaction mechanism is simple, but just to understand the concept, I'll explain the thing. Okay. So I hope you understood the thing. Any question, query? If not, then we'll directly go for the video.
Sir,
Yeah.
so if this is done in acidic medium, won't the acetate part be like hydrolyzed and will it not be deprotected?
Not really. The amide is a good question. Amide is not that easy to hydrolyze. Normally, you need boiling base. Okay, boiling base. Acid hydrolysis of amide is not that easy. Especially people use base. That is more facile. OH minus here. Okay, and as I said, this is pulling electron, right? This CO, and nitrogen is donating electron, right? So that's why, because of this donation, the electrophilicity of this carbonyl is less. Okay, this carbonyl less electrophilic compared to ester. Compared to ester, this is less electrophilic. That's why this this hydrolysis, so this attack is also less. No, this is, if it's less electrophilic, means OH will also be reluctant to add here. Okay, so that's why compared to ester, amide hydrolysis is more difficult. Of course, you can do that, but you really need to put KOH or LiOH and boil it. Then you will reach it, but at room temperature, and especially using acid, it's not that facile.
Thank you.
Yeah. Okay. So Devasita, should I?
Yeah.
Share the
Please
video?
share the video.
Let me do it. Okay. Before that, I need to share my screen. Go and share. Share for me. Yeah. Can you hear it, the video, and see it?
The sound is very low. Probably you need to increase the sound.
So this is a halogenation reaction.
Yeah, now
Parabromide is a white solid compound. So here inside the hood we have bromine, that is brown in color, parabromoacetanilide in the box, and acetic acid. So first what we will do, we will take 2.33 gram of acetanilide in a conical flask. So we have weigh out 2.33 gram acetanilide, and we are keeping it inside the conical flask. So you can see this is white in color. And now we will add 8 ml glacial acetic acid, that means concentrated acetic acid in that acetanilide. So we are adding 8 ml glacial acetic acid in acetanilide. And we will dissolve the acetanilide in glacial acetic acid. So it's almost dissolved in glacial acetic acid. And now we will add 5 ml bromine in acetic acid solution to this acetanilide solution in acetic acid.
So this solution, this solution was already made. This is already bromine in acetic acid. Just let me share with you. So how to, when you buy the bromine, it's basically bromine is a liquid, as you know. It comes like this. Is the picture visible to you guys?
Yes, sir.
Yes.
Okay, perfect. So this is the bromine ampoule. It's so it's volatile and also it's so reactive. It comes in a sealed cap like this. You know, the injection ampoule probably have seen. The doctors, they need to break it. The glass is a sealed glass. You have to break it here, and Dr. Srikant broke it here. We also bought it commercially available like this. And you need to break it and then put in that flask and then dilute it with glacial acetic acid. So it becomes bromine in glacial acetic acid. And you can see the concentrated bromine is like this. It's almost like it's so dark, almost looking black. And these are the vapors, you know, you see the red vapors. So it's always vaporized. The liquid bromine always vaporized. That's why you really need to be careful. You should not inhale it, otherwise it will oxidize. If you go inside your thing, whatever the cells, it will oxidize those. Okay? That's why we are using fume hood. Yeah. So once you dilute, the color becomes a little bit less dark.
5 ml in acetic acid solution to this acetic acid solution in acetanilide. So we have to be careful because this is a very strong bromine solution. So we'll transfer that acetic acid bromine solution to that acetanilide solution. And now we have to continue this reaction for 30 minutes in ice water bath. So the reaction will happen at low temperature.
Because we wanted to have the selectivity, that's why we are keeping the temperature low. So as I said, the aromatic ring is less activated, plus the steric effect on the steric hindrance on ortho position. But anything, if you heat it, let it warm, then it may happen it goes to ortho also. We don't want that. We really wanted that in the para position selectively. That's why we're keeping at low temperature as well.
So we have placed the reaction mixture in ice water bath, and we'll start occasionally with the glycerol and continuously for 30 minutes. After 30 minutes, we are adding the reaction mixture.
One notable thing here, because the substrate, the acetanilide, was soluble in acetic acid, and the bromine, of course, the liquid is also soluble, and the product itself, the brominated acetanilide, is also soluble in acetic acid. So it's not like you will see some color or something. So only one notable thing here is this: the change in color, or change the intensity of the color. You see now is very light yellow. I will just go back for a few minutes. We are at 6 minutes 10 seconds. We'll go back here. So after adding the bromine, you see the color was much darker, bit reddish was there, right? So this is the bromine color after addition is here. You see it was much more darker here. You see it's a good position. You can see now we are going there at 6 minutes 10 seconds. Here we go. Now you see the contrast. No precipitate, nothing, but the color of bromine becomes less because the bromine got consumed. Bromine is initially red. The concentration of bromine is very faint now. Only little bit is left. That's why color is less. Okay, so this is the indication here. No precipitate will come. This is the indication here.
Reaction mixture to 100 ml cold water.
Now you can see something.
So slowly we are adding the mixture to 100 ml cold water. And a white precipitate appear. Or parabromo acetanilide. So we are adding the glacial acetic acid solution of parabromoacetanilide to cold water, and we got a precipitate of parabromoacetanilide. And now we will filter the precipitate parabromoacetanilide using aspirator. So this is the aspirator pump, and here we have the sintered funnel. So we are
Check the vacuum. So Dr. Srikanth, check the vacuum. If there is any leakage from the sidewise, then the vacuum from the upper portion, the filter paper, the vacuum will not cramp properly. That's why he fixed all the tubes and then just checked everything is tight enough to give a good vacuum. And it's a really viscous white thing came, the precipitate came, right? If the vacuum is not good enough, then it will take really long time to filter out. So he checked properly.
para-bromoacetylene using Syntacman. So you see the white color precipitate. So we will wash the precipitate with cold water again, collect the precipitate, dry it, and then we will analyze by UV visual spectroscopy. Also, we will do a thin layer chromatography.
That's all from here. From the video, I'll share this video as always.
Okay, Shumon. So now
Yes.
I will show the PowerPoint where we have that spectra. So for this experiment, though in the laboratory manual, it was written that UV visible and NMR spectra. But actually for this, as the material is colorless, we will not see much change in UV visible spectra. So better we'll do an FTIR spectra because there is amide group. So you can understand the amide 1, amide 2 or NH stretching. So where the it's appear in FTIR. So that is the reason. So now I am sharing my screen with you to share the spectra. Yes. So this is the FTIR spectra or para-bromoacetanilide. So this is the full range starting from 500 to 4,000. And so you have. I hope you have already gone through FTIR spectroscopy, and they are stretching, bending, and all kinds of things. So what happening in a molecule with IR, infrared light. Okay. So what you need to do to characterize the main peaks, that is this NH stretching, and then this amide 1, amide 2, that is that CO, and then this resonance structure, this NC double bond, so whatever it is in this spectrum. So that is one thing you have to do, just characterize the main peaks responsible for this FTIR spectra. And this is the NMR spectrum of the compound para-bromoacetanilide. So there is not much more functional group. It's only the acetyl group, 3 hydrogen. There's a singlet, so you can figure out that where these 3 hydrogens are. And then the aromatic protons, they are under the same environment. So 2 kinds of aromatic protons are there. You can figure out this. And then one NH proton, amide proton, and that will also be a singlet. So you just characterize this NMR and UV visual spectra in your laboratory notebook and send a copy of the laboratory notebook before next experiment through that Gmail ID, and we'll check it. So Please let me know if you have any question. So you do not have question?
Sir, there is one in the chat box.
Sorry?
There is a question in the chat box.
Yeah, in the chat box there is something. Sip Kumar asked that, sir, if you have to activate H2, then this method can be used. Not really, because this method, as I mentioned, you need something which is having lone pair of electron, and hydrogen molecule, dihydrogen H2 is not having any lone pair, right? It's only hydrogen atoms having only one electron each, and that is shared in the bond pair. Okay, so that's why hydrogen not having any lone pair. So we can't really activate using this method. This method will be useful as shown in the board. Lone pair of electron, then it donates either to a proton or to a Lewis acid or so on and so forth. But you can activate hydrogen, as you know, using palladium or so any transition metal in the surface, just by absorption to the surface, metal surface, and you can cleave that hydrogen bond and then get activated. That's why any hydrogenation people do H2PD or H2 platinum or palladium, like transition metals. That will be heterogeneous one. Yeah, that's true. Heterogeneous one. Yes, true. Directly by using this method, no. But there are some modern method using frustrated Lewis acid base pair. But I don't know. I mean,
Yeah.
it's probably not a right forum to discuss.
Yeah.
That can I use this frustrated? Just please, whoever interested, you just type in Google activation of hydrogen using frustrated Lewis acid base pair. There's something interesting topic came up in last 1 decade, I would say. Yeah, frustrated Lewis acid base pair. Okay,
Or
so
you can use tin HCl, zinc HCl. So that is the hydrogenation in situation. So you can generate nascent hydrogen and use them.
yeah. Okay. Madhur asked that why does the precipitate, when added to water, why does it dissolve in acetic acid? Okay, that's a good question. So acetic acid, acetic is an organic solvent. You can consider it as organic acid, is an organic solvent, and the product is also organic. So organic dissolve organic, as you know, and water is almost, you can consider as inorganic solvent. Is very good to dissolve ionic thing in salt. It's good to dissolve in water. But this organic thing, any organic thing you add to water, it will precipitate out. And now the thing is, you can say, sir, acetic acid is still there, but the amount of water we have taken is much higher than acetic acid. So that's why when we are pouring the reaction mixture in the water, then the organic molecule are not really attached with acetic acid that much. Okay, so this water molecule are covering this. So this basically. This is now not anymore in acetic acid solvent cage. Now it comes in water solvent cage, and also the water will now cage the acetic acid, because water will dominate there because the amount is much higher. Okay. So that's why the organic part, this para-bromoacetanilide, will precipitate out. So in that situation, water will be the effective solvent. That is what I meant. It will dominate. Yeah. The effect of acetic acid will be less there because of just less quantity of acetic acid compared to water. Any other question?
Sir, we said that the steric factor also plays like important role, right?
Yeah,
But
just yeah.
so that is because the nitrogen and the acetate group whole thing is kind of rotating.
Yes.
But
So
when we cool it down, the rotation should like go down, right? Because
Yeah, rotation will
there
be
is a
less.
double bond character also with the NC.
That's true. But
So,
you know, it's a reversible, so this is nothing permanent, right? It's
but that
reversible.
is when the reaction is happening, right? Like we are kind of constraining
Yeah.
the rotation, and that's when the reaction is happening.
Yeah, that's true. That's true. But you know, but if you average out, I mean, compared to para position, definitely orthos are more crowded, isn't it?
Yes, yes.
Yeah. So that's the reason. Yeah, but
Okay.
these are all rotating. It's more dynamic, no? So this is always happening in, I don't know, it's a fraction of probably picosecond level or even lower. So it's double bond character, again, it will go single bond, rotate there, other side. So if you take an average factor, so this both the ortho are sterically crowded, compared, it's always comparative, right? Comparative study. If you just see the energy profile, the attack of bromine in the para position and ortho position, we'll see always the activation energy for ortho attack will be higher compared to para. So the when is a low temperature, and definitely it will prefer the low energy profile pathway. So that's why it will go like in the para position
Okay.
dominant product.
Oh, thank you.
Any other question, query? Feel free to ask. Don't be shy.
Yes, otherwise we will not understand. So whether you are enjoying the class or not.
Yeah.
You see, this is really a challenging task for us to do a practical one line.
Good. Yeah. We are trying our best to give you at least the glimpse of the thing. Yeah. The technical as well as the theoretical. Okay, looks like they don't have any question.
Okay,
So,
so then have a good lunch.
yeah. Okay, see you guys then next week. I'm stopping it here.